Hey everybody, it's your girl Marissa-Anne, and happy EMH Day, everybody. Welcome to the first annual EMH Day celebration panel. Today's conversation is going to be about self-love and uniqueness, which is inspired by the doctor from Star Trek Voyager. The EMH Day isn't about celebrating perfection. It's about celebrating the journey of becoming real and accepting yourself for who you are, and also leaning on support from those that care about you and love about you as well. So during this panel, we're all going to be discussing again our topic on self-love and uniqueness. There are no wrong answers here. This is all uh, just based on just life experiences. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panel. I would like to introduce Lauren.
Hello, everybody.
I would also like to introduce Bianca.
Hello, my name is Bianca, and I am a mental health therapist. I'm primarily an advocate for individuals with mental illnesses. I'm so excited to be here today, and I look forward to, really joining in the discussion.
All right. I would also like to introduce Sir Isaac.
Hello, everyone. I am a recovery coach and a registered behavioral technician, and I am excited to be here today to share my opinion.
All right. And lastly, I would like to introduce Daniel.
Hi, everybody.
All right. So I'm going to get to a little background about EMH Day before we go into our discussion. The idea of EMH Day came to me from me watching the episode called Latent Image. In this particular episode, the doctor finds out that his memory has been tampered with, and he keeps reliving certain experiences over and over again. So he's kind of showing like signs of PTSD. So um, he and another character by the name of Seven of Nine end up finding out why is it that his memory keeps being tampered with, and when so they're in sick. So he has another episode, and um, they record what happens, and then the doctor is his program comes back online, and he finds out that it is the captain of Voyager, Catherine Janeway. She's the one that went in and reset his program along with the chief engineer, Belana Torres. So he's wondering why this is happening, and they tell him what happens. He experienced a very traumatic event where he was dealing with a Sophie's choice, where um, no matter which choice he made, somebody was going to get hurt, or in this case, somebody was going to die. And he becomes traumatized by it, and he keeps reliving those experiences over and over again. Um, and so it gets to the point where they decide to reset his program again. And then the captain has a conversation with Belana Torres, and she has another one with Seven, where she discovers that maybe resetting his program is not a good idea because every time we do it, he's just going to keep doing it again. So she ends up figuring out that what if he actually has a soul, and that's why he's going through what he's going through. Um, Balana doesn't really think that, you know, he has a soul, but but the captain pretty much reminds her that, hey, his program can adapt. He can learn. What if all of these learned experiences are causing him to have a soul, to become unique, to become sentient, to become his own self? And as time goes on, in this episode, um, they all come together and make the decision of, instead of resetting his program, they provide him counseling. And so everybody on the ship, and he pretty much becomes his counselor. And the very last line that he says in the episode is, "Here begins a new life." Um, And that just stuck with me. And so that's why I chose January 20th as the day to celebrate EMH Day, because it is the episode that pretty much makes that decides how um, that helps audiences discover that yes, our doctor is beyond a computer program. He's beyond AI. He's sentient. He now has a soul. So that's why I decided to choose EMH January 20th as EMH Day, and why I decided to celebrate that character. But unlike other Star Trek days, EMH Day is not a day where we just focus directly on the character. It's more of the meaning behind the character that we are focusing on. So what the character represents. So in this case, our theme for today will be on self-love and uniqueness. So, I do have a list of questions, and feel free to answer them the best way you can. Again, this is not about us being right. This is not about us being politically correct. This is about us just being honest uh, with ourselves, and also about life experiences. So, my first question is, and I'm going to shoot this to Lauren. What does self-love actually mean to you, not as a slogan, but in practice?
So I'm going to repeat the question you asked me. What does self-love mean to me?
Yeah, not as
Self-love,
a slogan, but but in practice.
what I do,
Yeah. Or how do you
recognizing,
practice self-love? Yeah.
well, you recognizing that you're human, that you matter, that what other people think of you doesn't necessarily mean anything, and you can't let other people harm you. It's about taking care of yourself, your mental health, your physical health, doing things that make you happy, and respecting your body, respecting who you are as a person, and doing what makes you happy.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in?
For me, let's see, could you repeat the question, please?
What does self-love actually mean to you, not just as a slogan, but in practice?
How I practice self-love is I try to treat myself kind and be kind to others. I value peace, and I believe that's a way that I can kind of share love with others as well. If I'm at peace, then I can help others, gain some sort of sense of peace. Um, Mindfulness, you know, um, that's pretty much it. Those are my top three. So mindfulness, being kind to others, and being at peace.
Okay. Uh, Daniel, what is self-love to you? Like, not just something that you say, but just something that you actually do. How would you show yourself self-love?
Um, I would pretty much say like the way I show it, it would personally be more of just I don't really let what other people say get to me too much because I've learned throughout me, even though I'm not 18 yet, but for how old I am, I have realized very quickly that like no matter what you do in this world, there's always going to be somebody that's just going to dislike you, and you're
Mhm.
better off just ignoring what they do. And so the way I mostly practice self love is not letting what other people say and do get the best of me. Not letting it, yeah.
Okay. Sir Isaac, do you have a comment on this one?
Yes, I think self-love is simply self-care. And self-care to me is defined by boundaries and healthy boundaries. And that is in tune with being able to show up for others. Because when you are at your best, you'll be able to show up well for others. I think of oftentimes the saying that they say when you're on a airplane to put your child's mask on first if you're flying with a child or someone with different abilities, to put their mask on first. But I'm sorry, put your mask on first and then put their mask on. And the reason that is so you can have oxygen, so you can be able to function at your full capacity. So it's about taking care of yourself and showing up as your best self to be able to then show your best self to the world and to help others.
I agree. I like that statement. That is one thing that I've learned in life, especially from my mother. She always told all her children that you have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of others. Because if you're not thinking straight, if you are in this deep mode of anger or depression, you can't make the proper decisions for um for the people that you care about. Even if if you own a business, if your mindset is not there and you just walking into work every day moody because you're not doing self-care, you won't be able to do what's best for your employees. You won't be able to do what's best for your customers, people that you network with. You won't be able to do anything for them. So I agree with everybody's points on self-love. We do have to take care of ourselves. Um, and not just from a mental standpoint, but even from a physical standpoint, because everything up here if you don't have what's going on in your head right, it can affect you physically. There's so many we've all seen examples of that. So that can happen to lots of people. It can even happen to ourselves. My next question is, are there ever times where we feel that self-love can become uncomfortable or it can seem even selfish? Who would like to go first on that one? You want to go, Lauren? Okay.
Um, I guess being a veteran, I'm in somewhat of a fortunate situation. Um, when you see other people in certain situations that they really can't control, it's like, I can easily go to the emergency room. I can easily find a job. And I guess, veterans just set themselves up for life, when you serve and as long as you keep your nose clean. But sometimes when I have to tell people on the streets no, because I perceive that they're going to do something bad with it,
Hmm.
like for money or buy cigarettes or all that type of stuff, sometimes I can feel that, that was somewhat overly exaggerating what I can have and what I can offer people, because I would rather them ask me, can you tell me where a shelter is? Can you call an ambulance for me? So I would, tell them, no, I don't want to help you. Get away from me sometimes. And, I was just trying to protect myself and also them, because you just never know what people are going to do. Because I've actually witnessed someone taking $5 from me and buying a pack of cigarettes. So I think not being able to help everyone makes me feel selfish sometimes when it comes to self-love.
Okay. All right. Bianca?
Hmm, I have a lot to say on that, but the
Go
first thing
ahead,
that
girl. Say
popped
what you got
in,
to say.
it probably would take me a lot of time to really get it out. But the first thing that popped in my mind was you mentioned being uncomfortable and maybe feeling like how it could come off as selfish when it comes to relates to self-love. Um, so self-love, okay, we all have our own perception of what self-love is. And we could show up, caring for someone always, like another person. And then we can also show up as caring for ourselves always. And sometimes it could appear as good or bad, self-love to others. For example, if you're always taking someone else out to lunch, someone said, well, girls, take yourself out to lunch sometimes. But that may be one's own individual way of showing self-care or love, because that person may be altruistic.
Mhm.
And so what that is, altruism is basically like when you gain a sense of understanding of love by caring for others and not just yourself. That's pretty much who I am as a person. And so I think in order to understand each other, You have to have deep conversations, if you will, or if you would like to, with the people you love and care about, and find out what's important to them. And in turn, you can help not only yourself, but you can help each other, you know, do things that you really care about and things that bring meaning to your life. So.
All right, Daniel, is there ever times where you think self-love can be perceived by others as being like uncomfortable or being selfish?
I mean, yeah, there are certain times where it can be like that because it's just like when I'm in math sometimes.
Hmm.
There are some people I feel bad for because they don't catch on to the math as easily as I do. And then I'm sitting there doing my work and I'm like, these people aren't catching on and they're always asking for help. And I'm like I understand, like I can go help them, but there's just sometimes where like I have to focus on my own math homework before I can even go help others.
Okay. Sir Isaac, did you want to tackle this one?
I'll tackle it a little bit. I think I'm going to go a little bit of a different route, although I agree with everybody in the room. Great comments. But I'm going to say that sometimes it can feel selfish to show self-love because sometimes that means going against the status quo. And sometimes that means going against the grain. Um, as a gender nonconforming LGBT person, sometimes that means that taking care of myself and my best self may not look like what society or colonialism or Western society wants that to look like. And so sometimes it can feel, particularly for different demographics and communities, that my self care and my selfishness is offensive in that nature. But it allows me to show up in my best way. It allows me to show up in my true self, not depressed, not down, because then, other things could happen. You don't want to work, you don't want to go to the job, you don't want to do the things because you feel as if you're not showing up as your true self. So it can be um, it can be a level of feeling like, am I doing the correct thing by being my authentic self? But in reality, it is because other issues could happen if not.
Okay. Bianca, you raised your hand.
I like that, Sir Isaac. That's kind of the direction I was going in, because I think a lot of people tend to discriminate or, just have all these, odd thoughts about people because their perceptions of things are different from their own. And of course, I think self-love is all about balance as well. Like if you're gonna, do unto yourself, I think you also should try to do unto others, do, great things for others. Um, but I think the biggest thing for me is to be able to see the world from many different perspectives if you can, not just your own. Because if you put yourself in a box and say, well, I think like this is how I see self-love, or this is how I see people, you think people should treat others, then, you're doing yourself a disservice, and possibly not being able to allow new ideas, into your mind. And again, you would debilitate yourself, when it comes to help, not only helping yourself, but helping others, if they have questions or going through an experience. So thank you for that. That was good.
For me, like, I've been struggling with losing weight, and I remember and this is several years ago, I remember at one point, um, I was losing, and this was like 3 years ago when I had my surgery. Um, at one point, uh, before I had the surgery, I was losing the weight, and I could see the difference in how people treated me. I had some people saying that they think that I have an attitude now because of me losing the weight, or you're doing too much, you need to slow down. Um, and then I remember, and during that time, I was figuring out who my real friends were. I was figuring out which family members actually cared about me, because what was happening was I was making a change in myself to better myself because I didn't like who the other person was. So I knew in order to to fix that, that I needed to I part of that was me losing weight, because people don't realize when you lose weight, this starts to change. You start to think about yourself differently. You start to love yourself very differently than how you used to love yourself before. And I just remember some friends coming to me one day and saying, Marissa, um, I literally asked them, like, guys, I've noticed this person is kind of off. They're not really treating me the way that they used to. And they said, well, Marissa, because they are literally jealous of the fact that you've lost so much weight. And because you lost so much weight and you don't look the same, you're not acting the same, it makes you come off as if you're this selfish person. It makes you come off as if you're this person who just has a nasty attitude. When in reality, my friends were telling me, no, you don't. You have found a way to love yourself, and you are viewing yourself differently. And you have people who just, some people just can't deal with that. And trying to figure out how to do this. I guess I wasn't being selfish at all. I knew I wasn't being, but I just guess that I think that people just, when you decide to make a change for yourself, not everybody is gonna stick with you because they just can't handle that. And so, and they see it as something negative, when in reality, you're not doing anything negative. You're just trying to better yourself. Maybe there's something about you that they like, that they wish that they could have and they couldn't have it. And maybe that's why they're doing what they're doing. I don't know. But for some odd reason, when you change yourself for the better, it pisses people off. Not everybody, but some people. Lauren, you had your hand raised?
I don't think that people perceive you as being selfish. I think sometimes when people see you make dramatic changes in your life, they don't know how to react and they don't know what to say to you. They don't know how to say, congratulations, good job, I'm so proud of you, because they're used to you being a certain way and they're going to always expect you to be a certain way. So it has nothing to do with you. It has something to do with them. Like when I was traveling overseas and getting in shape and being in the Navy, people treated me different. Relatives that wouldn't even talk to me. People think you have money and they start, well, can I borrow some? No, it's something that they don't know how to connect with you the same way they connected with you before. And even in your case, a lady was telling me that her friend went through the same ordeal and said, I can't go out with her. She don't want to go out to drink and eat pizza and hamburgers anymore. So I've been having to adjust with my friend as she's adjusting to her life. And she said it's actually encouraging her to be a better person. So that's how I feel.
Okay. Anybody? Okay. All right, Sir Isaac, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanna jump on the train and and you know say how sometimes again, like I started saying earlier, coming showing up as your best self and showing up as your authentic self can be offensive to people at times. And I even think about Michelle Obama's book, in when she talks about becoming, she talks about her friend circle, and she talks about how there were certain people that she could take to certain heights of this metaphoric mountain that she used. And in that, what stuck with me is she didn't cut any friends off. She said there were friends she invited to state dinners and events from ages ago that she knew many, many years ago. And some of them wrote back and said, I don't want to go. She didn't cut them off, but she just understood that, okay, this select group of friends, um I can appreciate this change in me, or they can appreciate this level of me, and this other group of friends may not be able to appreciate that in that same way. So I definitely just want to take that note and say I get it. Surrounding yourself as you move throughout the different facets of your own life with people who understand where you are and where you're going to. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of anybody either.
Mhm.
And sometimes you do.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bianca.
Let's see. So, yeah, change is hard. I
Yeah.
do agree with that. And I think it's hard for others to consume because they don't understand it sometimes. You may have a way of, you may be experiencing some sort of change and they're like, that's weird. Somebody may say, that's weird. Why are they doing that? Why? Or it might be funny to somebody, girl, or that's crazy. Why she do that? You don't know because you haven't spoken to that person and and found out their reason or their purpose for making a change. It might be scary to another person, change. So they don't want to jump on board if they are not able to, if they don't have the tools to kind of fight this fear that they may have of change. Also, I think it all boils down to you don't know how to connect with change. And so if you don't know how, you can talk to someone, talk to the person that you may be having that challenge with understanding a certain thing about, and ask them, hey, what's going on? You know what? That's interesting to me. Ask questions. It's about communication and discussions about having hard conversations, actually, ones that you may not be ready for because you might hear some things that you may not imagine, or you might hear something that may be able to support you. So I think having a conversation with a person can be very helpful, not just to yourself, but to the other person.
I agree with everybody's statements. I mean, and we should have those conversations with people. And I think we also have to make sure that we don't let their personal feelings affect us because there's something that my aunt used to always tell us, people's opinions about you are none of your business. Specifically the ones that are negative. That ain't none of your business. And um there are times where you should be a little bit concerned, maybe if it affects your job or whatever. But in most cases, no, you don't need to be concerned about others people's opinions. And then when you decide to make a change for yourself, you can't allow other people's opinions to affect you to the point where you just decide to stop going on your journey. You decide to not better yourself because you are so busy worrying about what somebody got to say. You're so busy, and you're not just worrying about what people got to say and what, but also um letting being so inside your head that you come up with these weird scenarios where you think people are thinking things about you when they really aren't. You thinking people are saying stuff about you that they really aren't. You thinking people are going to do stuff to you that they really aren't going to do to you. We have a lot of that going on nowadays. A lot of people just have so much stuff going. They get so deep into their own head that they forget to focus on what they need to, they forget to focus on what's important, and that's taking care of yourself. That's focusing on being around the people that really mean something to you and that really care about you. So my next question. Oh, go ahead, Bianca.
I'm really, really enjoying this conversation. um,
Yeah, girl.
because I couldn't let you move on without saying, self-care, we cannot forget about ourselves, but I strongly believe, and I think this is a concept that would be difficult for some people to take in, that you do need others to support your self-care sometimes. I think sometimes people think that self-care always has to be an individual thing or a thing that they have to do alone. Sometimes you don't have the tools or the capacity, and asking for help will not hurt, you
Mhm.
know. Um, so yeah, thank you for that, Marissa.
Oh, you're welcome. There was an episode of Star Trek Voyager called uh Future's End. And before that, the Doctor is a hologram. He stays in sick bay. He can't go nowhere because he's a hologram. If he leaves sick bay, he disappears. I think the only other place he can probably go is the bridge, but I think that's it. It's because he needs holo emitters or these special types of cameras that can emit his image so you can see him and interact with him. So in Future's End, he got something called a mobile emitter. So it's like this little device, and I always call it like a little camera that can emit his image, so therefore he can go wherever he wants. He's not stuck in sick bay all day. He gets to move around now. He gets to, which also helps him experience, what life is like and what it is to be real. And I remember at the end of the episode, he said, "Yeah, I got this," and I'm just paraphrasing, like, "I got this hollow meter, I can walk around now, I can have my own quarters, I can do this, I can do that." And then you got the captain like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, buddy, you need to slow down. Like, we're not gonna rush into this." And it kind of made me realize that you got people like that are in your circle, your support circle, that are like that will tell you, when you have all of these ideas of what you want to do, some folks might try to tell you, "Oh, buddy, you need to slow down. Like, you don't need to, don't pump the gas real quick. Just slow down." But you have some people who say that to you in the form because they really care about you. They don't want you to just rush into stuff. But then you also got people who say that stuff to you because it kind of bothers them. It scares them. It makes them feel uncomfortable, and they're putting their uncomfortableness onto you. And so we have to make sure that we know the difference between someone who is supporting us and someone who is literally trying to slow us down and not helping us what's the word? Progress. All right, Sir Isaac, you had your hand up, and then after Sir Isaac, Daniel. Oh, that's Daryl. Daryl, you gotta unmute.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you, we do have another guest. Wasn't sure if he was coming or not, but this is Daryl. So Daryl, welcome
Hey.
to our panel.
I want to touch back on what you and Bianca were saying about self care. And I agree with what Bianca said. Sometimes self care, you do have to do it by yourself. One thing I don't understand when people don't do, there is nothing wrong with quiet time. And people think when it comes to self care, you're supposed to just go out. You're supposed to be around loud noise, supposed to be going to a concert and all that. Not saying nothing's wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing going wrong to the spa or going to the beach and walk around. But I mean, everybody thinks you don't have to spend money for self care. No, you can go to the gym. You can go for a walk. You can do yoga. Or if you just need some quiet time, have some quiet time. And you don't even have to read a book if you don't have to. Just breathe. Have some quiet time. It's the simplest things that people don't understand that, and they think it has a lot to do with just spending money to have self care. No, you do not have to spend a dime for self care. You don't.
I agree. You don't have to go way out your way
Mm.
for self-care. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like I said, just going for a walk is enough. Going to the movies, going to the spa, you don't have to go, you don't have to do these extraordinary stuff in order to show self-love for yourself. Daniel.
Okay, so this one has something to do with really about what you just said, like not exactly about what the whole inner circle thing.
Mhm.
And I'll admit, one thing about me is that like once I see something that I want or I envision me in a particular whatever job I want to do when I'm older,
Mhm.
I'm gonna go after it and get it because I'm just that's just the way I am. That's my personality like that. And I've experienced multiple times where I've had people say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, pump the brakes down. You're only 15. Enjoy your life." Or, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, pump the brakes, dude. You're never gonna get that far." Now, to the people that say I'm never gonna get that far, you don't exactly know that because you don't know exactly what will happen in my life. nobody really has control over what happens in your life except for you. So one thing I will say is definitely don't let what people say get to you, because I had to learn that from a really young age up to now, and I'm still learning that as I'm getting older, as my life is progressing.
All right, Lauren, you had your hand raised.
Yes. Um, like 5 more minutes and I gotta do some self-care things from today. But
Okay. See, this is why self-care is important. You got to take care of yourself.
so just to piggyback on what Daniel is saying, also self-care is keeping certain things to yourself. It's important not to tell everybody what's going on in your life,
Mm-hmm.
your goals and everything, how much money you make, what kind of job, places you've been and stuff, because people don't always have good intent for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely say a part of self-care is keeping your goals to yourself sometimes, not putting out over the internet what you're doing, your love life, all that type of stuff. Sometimes you just have to lay low. So many people have told me, well, I didn't know this about you, Lauren, and I didn't know that about you, Lauren. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's okay. Because I just don't, I'm the type that just don't like everybody in my house. I don't like to hang out with so many people, and I just don't like to let people know what, is going on in my life. People, the way I dress, people could possibly think I'm a bum, but they have no idea who I am. And I rather keep it like that. So sometimes with self-care, you just have to lay low. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to leave. I really appreciate this focus group, and I will be back next time you have it. And everyone have a great weekend and an MLK day if you have it off. And let's go Bears tonight.
All right.
All right, bye bye.
Bye-bye. Um, Go ahead. Hold on, but before I get to Sir Isaac, this should have been one of my questions that I should have asked. But it's going to be my next question I'm going to ask you. But we all have to make sure we protect our peace and protect ourselves because, you know, a lot of us have been taught that you can't tell everybody all your business for a certain reason because not just because you don't want everybody in your business. You also can't tell everybody your business because you got folks out here who are just what are they? What's the term? Negative, a negative Nancy. I think that's what they call it. They just they're just like that. They're just so negative. They always got to come up with what if this happens? What if that happens? Okay, we know what could possibly what something can always go wrong when I make a decision in my life. But what about what's going to happen uh if I prosper at it? Stop asking me what if I fall? Why don't you ask me, well, what if I rise? What happens if I rise? What happens if I accomplish this? You know, go ahead, Sir Isaac.
No, you hit a nerve. You hit a nerve when you said that.
I think I did hit a nerve.
Yeah, in a good way. In a good way. I have to go back to what Lauren said, and just it resonated with me in the sense that yes, sometimes there was a saying when I was in this internship program in Brooklyn, in Bronx rather, and it said it's lonely at the top. That's what kind of what she would say to us is it's lonely at the top. And what I took from that is sometimes the higher up you go when it comes to your own goals, your own desires, a few group of people will get it. You will find your tribe. There will be people who get it, but it's going to be a select few of people who understand the trajectory and the path that you're trying to take in any walk of life. And you're going to have different pathways within that. So you may have people who like do yoga with you, but that same group that likes to do yoga may not be the group that you can go and network with, and it might be. It just all depends. You have to be very selective. And I like what Lauren said about you can't tell everybody everything, and you have to have a level of discernment behind who you can tell what. But you hit a nerve. You hit a nerve when you talked about just now when you were talking about the what ifs. One, everybody knows, for me, it was always going to be two things in my life as far as career. It was always going to be human behavior, which I'm doing, or it was going to be somewhere on Broadway. Anybody who knows me knows those have always been the two things I wanted to do: either be on television or and be in human behavior. I say all of that to say I've had people from the time I was Daniel's age or even younger saying, you can't, you're not going to Broadway. You know how many people want to be on Broadway? Thousands and thousands of why do you think they call it starving artists? I've heard that more than a few times, you know, and I've also been blessed to have the opportunities that all it took was a moment. If path in life would have taken me differently, all it would have took was a moment to see that it's actually not that hard. I've had several times where auditions for different television shows, well-known television shows, and I won't put them out there just for sake of the conversation, have been given to me. Like, you should go and audition for this. Life has taken me a certain way, and for many reasons, I was not able to. But I say all of that to say, if I would have listened to those people, I would have never placed myself in positions where literally somebody has handed me auditions to say, "Hey, go audition for this. Go do this. Why don't you do this?" And sometimes it has prospered. But I agree with what everyone is saying around the world.
All right. All right. So my next question, this is my last question that I have for self-love. This one may hit a nerve too. How do you practice self-compassion when you don't feel confident in yourself or you don't feel put together? How do you practice self-compassion or self-love when you don't feel confident or you don't feel put together? Because that's rough for some folks. Because, but go ahead. Who wants to go first?
I'll take a swing at it.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Isaac.
I think that oftentimes we all have some sense of imposter syndrome, and it may not be diagnosed, but we have a measure of imposter syndrome. And I know with someone who deals with that, um, it's a level of feeling like you're not meeting the status quo that others have placed on you, or that your life is not what it is. There's been times where, again, going back to the whole audition things, there's been times when I think about the people that I know, and this is not by any means to be braggadocious. Um, I think about the people that I know or the people that I've been in circles with, and my mind tells me, no, you don't know those people. No, you've never met those people. And I know that's not true because I was there. I was, just as real as we are over this Zoom right now. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, I remember sitting in these people's homes. I remember, befriending these people and them liking me and me liking them, and, having these experiences that only memory can share in the test of time. But what oftentimes our humanity tells us is, you're not good enough, you're not enough, and you can't be what you are. So to give way to your question, how do we show up still? We have to constantly battle these parallel notions, is what I think. And I think we have to, like Bianca was saying earlier, involve ourselves around a community that will help us battle these things. Every time I start feeling like that, I personally call my mom, and she reminds me, you went to New York at when you went to New York at 19, and you did this, and she constantly reminds me of the things that I've told her. She wasn't there. She's lived through secondary information, and she constantly reminds me, son, you don't remember me, you don't remember telling me this, you don't remember doing this. And so having those people who will encourage you, having those people that will see something's off about you today and you're not usually like this, are being able to hear it. You're not talking how you normally talk. What's going on? So that's what I would say is being able to put yourself back into reality, accepting that reality and giving way to community that will do that as well.
Go ahead and unmute yourself, Bianca.
Okay. So, Marissa, do you mind repeating the question?
How do you practice self-compassion when you don't feel confident in yourself or you don't feel put together?
All right. So, first thing that popped in my mind was think about what it means to you first. Um, Not what it means to anybody else, but what it means to you. I think self-compassion is basically like treating yourself like a friend. I think that could be really hard for some people if they don't have a lot of friends, or if they don't even know what true friendship is, or not let's leave friendship out of the the picture. If you don't know how to connect with others, how can you effectively show compassion to others? So I think it boils down to things that you value, you know. Um, so all we can do is assist others to the best of our own ability.
Mhm.
So one example that popped in my head was, so like when you're having a hard time showing self-compassion to others, um, for example, people judge with how you help people sometimes. For example, you might have a family member that's sick. And then you might have somebody that would like to visit them often. Hey, I went over to mom's house to help her, whatever. And then you may have, like I have like 20 siblings. You may have another sibling that says, I didn't go over there to help mom, but I called her. So it's a difference in showing compassion. You can call somebody, you can visit them. There's no right or wrong, like you were saying earlier, Marissa. It's what you can do, what you can offer to others, as long as it's healthy and there's and it's meaningful to you. That's all I can say about that.
Daniel, do you want to tackle this question?
Um,
Do you want me to repeat it?
yeah.
Okay. How do you show self-compassion when you don't feel confident in yourself or you don't feel put together? How do you show compassion to yourself or to others when you don't feel confident in yourself or you don't feel like you're put together or you're just like, I'm not here today?
Okay, so this is a very difficult question for me to tackle. But one thing that I mostly do most of the time from my personal experience is I'll try to listen to music
Okay.
because there's something about music that just can either it can make somebody's day, make somebody's mood, bring in their confidence or not bring it in. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just something about it.
Hmm.
So I'll try to listen to music or I'll go hang around a certain group of friends that I know that like they're gonna help me cheer my day up.
Okay. Um, One of the things that I try to do is um when I don't to if I'm ever in like a mood where like I just can't get out of it, um, I have like a plan of action that I follow to help get myself out of it. Like I'll meditate or um I'll get on the phone and I'll call somebody and just to tell them how I feel. Um, I'll go for a walk. I'll get in the car, go exercise. Because before that, I used to eat in order to make myself feel better. But even after I was done eating and I did feel better, I ended up feeling worse. That didn't work. So I had to take that out of my plan of action. So, like I said, I'll meditate, go for a walk, exercise, find somebody that I can speak with. Um, One of the other things that I notice is that sometimes it's hard to show compassion in general to others when you're not feeling it yourself. And when you're not feeling it yourself and someone needs that compassion from you need to let them know that from the get-go, because sometimes we forget to tell people who are going through stuff that, hey, I I'm not really here right now. You know, you may tell them like, hey, I'm here to listen. If I react a certain way, just know that I'm just not here right now. And you may even have to tell the person, look, I understand you going through something right now, but it's not healthy for me right now to listen to what it is that you have to say. Because it's not just about you protecting yourself, but you also want to protect them from a reaction or an argument that doesn't need to happen. I hope I'm saying this right. All right, Bianca, you had your hand raised?
Oh, I agree with what you were saying, Marissa. You have to reset if you're having a difficult time, um, sharing compassion with yourself or others. So my reset is peace. That's what, why me and my friends get along, because peace and quiet is, I feel like I have so much energy after maybe like 3 hours of silence. It's so helpful because in my daily work, all I hear is noise, noise, talking, talking. Um, you know, it could be hard. And so, you got to find out what's working for you. Also, communication, you mentioned that. That's another big one. If you don't share with somebody else what you are feeling inside or what you're going through, how can they help you? And how, like, you're going to be sitting in like this dump, this dark space, and you're not only going to like, I mean, it may not harm you, but in the long run, it can. But the people around you, the people you care about as well, sometimes I think we get so focused on that, showing self-compassion to ourselves by doing whatever we need to do, and other people are impacted around us. And so I think that communication is really key, because you let someone know and then they know, okay, let me pull back, let me give them their space, let me give them their time. Yeah. So sharing is caring. I like that, Marissa.
Sir Isaac, you had your hand raised?
Yes, I say you're gonna stop stepping on my nerves today. It's too early to be stepping on nerves. Are we at lunch? Are we at lunchtime yet?
No, well, it technically
we
could be
can
lunchtime for some people.
no, I just wanted to say that uh, Bianca and everybody who has said it, friends and community. I think we forget how important in self care community is, and how important tribe is. Self care and which shameless plug. I'm working on another event for my business in Sir's self care day. Shameless plug. But my point of that is this next iteration of it will be about how self care and community correspond together, because in this time we're hearing a lot about rallying together and coming together in unity to stand up and all of these wonderful things that we're hearing, but sometimes they can be draining, and
Mhm.
sometimes showing up as the hero, much like I'm sure the doctor felt, showing up as the hero and showing up as the person who has this infinite level of knowledge, even in our own personal circles, with the knowledge that we do have, you know as we continue to learn more, it can feel like who's gonna help me, who's going to who can help me realize the humanity inside of myself. So I very much agree with that level of community, as well as I'm hearing, as Daryl said earlier when he popped in, and as you all have also said, I'm also hearing that self-care doesn't have to necessarily be all of these wonderful things. It doesn't have to be a trip off the Riviera. It can be. That sounds very beautiful. I want to go sit under some palm trees as well, but it doesn't have to be that. It could just simply be, hey, I need a moment. Hey, just let me just take an extra nap. I need to close my eyes and take a nap for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And when I wake back up, I'll have another level of energy. And oftentimes we don't know how to communicate that. Oftentimes we don't even know that we're feeling that because we've been taught to be to be present. Yeah.
Piggybacking about what you said about the doctor, how everybody's dependent on him, but he's like, well, who do I got? There's a one of his nurse that one of the ladies that he's training to be a nurse was pretty much the person who um was his advocate. You're the only doctor on the ship, so everybody depended on you to to save your life. And on top of that, you ain't got a nurse at all. You own your own. You do have there was another character by the name of Tom Paris. Not exactly sure if he's characterized as a nurse, but he does have some medical background. But when you but he everybody was like I said you could if when you watch the show you could tell he gets frustrated because he's like everybody's dependent on me to help them, but nobody's dependent on nobody is here to help me, nobody is speaking up for me. I don't even have a name at this point. That's weird when you're going through life and you ain't got a name. And but then there's the lady that he's training to be a nurse, Kess. She became his advocate and spoke up for him and made sure that people treated him with respect, because just because he's a computer program and you can pretty much do whatever you want with a computer program doesn't mean you get to treat him that way, because at the end of the day, he is the only doctor on this ship. You got to give him a certain level of respect. But even though she kept advocating for him, eventually she got him to start advocating for himself. And I think that's another thing that comes with self-love and support. Yes, we have people there to support us, but eventually those people, they can only support you there's only so much support that they can do for you. That's why the people that support you and really care about you are going to tell you, hey, you need to speak up for yourself. You need to show yourself compassion by speaking up for yourself, telling people that you don't want folks saying this about you. You need to treat me this way, not that way. I deserve my individuality. I deserve to be loved the way that I need to be loved. I deserve to be treated the way that I need to be treated, because you can't always depend on your support group to do it for you. There's only so much they can do for you. You got to do it for yourself. So, um, we're going to move on to our next topic, and I have three questions. It's on uniqueness. So, when did you first realize that you were different, and how did that make you feel? And different can be anything. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go for you, Sir Isaac, because I see the response.
Look, true story, true story. Oh Lord, true story. When my mother was carrying me in the womb, I would open my mother would talk, you talk to babies sometimes, you say, "Oh, hey baby," and all that kind of stuff. And before I was conceived, my mother was talking to me and I was talking back. And they had to send her to a doctor in Dallas um, to do a specialist to see about me because I was swallowing amniotic fluids. And true story. She's like, you have to stop talking to that baby because the baby's talking back before
Wait,
bef-
what?
before existing. True story, before even existing in the world. So we're talking about uniqueness. So
Yeah.
I knew I might have not been aware of it, of course, until I became aware of my cognizance and what have you. But I knew, fresh out of birth, that there was something unique about me. And I think that uniqueness allows you to fight against the odd, bringing it back into what today is about with the doctor and what have you. I think he developed a sense of understanding how his uniqueness plays a significant role in his being sentinel, in his being a being in his presence and how he shows up in the world. And I think once you grasp your uniqueness, and once you grasp who you are, it allows you to show up in the world and move in the world in a special way. And I will lastly, I will lastly try to end this part of the little statement about with this. Beyonce says unique, that's what you are. So that's what I feel that I am, is very much the essence of me, one and one, only one, as Beyonce would say. Yeah.
Uniqueness makes the world go round. We all can't be the same. You know how boring this world would be if we were all the same? It'd be dull. Like, that's one, like, there's another species. Well, I don't know if they're even a species, because the Borg, and the Borg believe in perfection, but their form of perfection is that everybody has to be the same. Everybody has to think the same. That's not perfection. I don't think people need to understand that being unique, to me, that's perfection, because you are being your most authentic self, and you don't care how what people think. Be your most authentic self. Love yourself. Be the person that the universe wants you to be. Go ahead, Bianca.
Still,
So the
you
question
know,
is, when did you realize you were different, and how did that feel?
oh, first thing that popped in my mind was that I moved to the beat of my own drum.
Mhm.
You know, I'm not a follower, never have been. Secondly, was I smile all the time. And a lot of people, no, I'm not gonna say a lot. Some people find that to be odd. And I've always felt like I don't have to have anything wrong with me just because I like to smile. But, there are some things that come along with that. Sometimes I smile because it's a psychological element to it, meaning like if I'm having a bad day, that sometimes that smile can pull me through it, and it's not faking, it's what I do for myself to get through certain things. And that's my uniqueness. That's personal to me. Also, I was thinking about the doctor, and I can imagine how unique he was because he experienced so many things that other people didn't. It seemed. Um, he he felt odd. It sounded like he felt different, and it was almost like, why do I have to be going through these things? It's because he was programmed to be that way, and goes back to what you were saying, Marissa. We are all programmed. We were born to be a certain way, so we should accept ourselves as is, and kind of move with the flow, and live with it, get through it. We got this. That's all I can say.
Being unique also means not focusing on everybody else's journey, focusing on yours. I mean, you got lots of people in this world who want to be a doctor, and they're all going down that road of being a doctor, but they're all taking a different path, but their road looks different for them. Like, that road to being a doctor is full of potholes, is full of cracks. There's some areas that are smooth. Some of those folks will be able to jump over those potholes. Some folks can't. They just gonna fall straight in. Some of them will be able to get themselves out of those potholes by themselves. Some of them will need a little help. And then there's some people who are in those potholes and they just stay there. There's cracks in the road on the way to being a doctor. And like I said, everybody's going down that road. But some folks are gonna trip over it. Some folks are gonna step over it. Some folks gonna get stuck, can't get out. There's some folks who are gonna get stuck and they know that they can get themselves out, but they want folks to do it for them. You know, and that's what I mean by not focusing on everybody else's. Focus on, your own. And that's one of the issues that we have in life. Like, Some people are like, well, why did this person become a celebrity or a fame or an actor faster than me? Well, you don't, I don't know why. Just know that that person, they had to go, they went through something to get where they are today. And that's what we need to realize. Everybody is on this journey, but our journey is different. And we're all trying to accomplish, whatever goals we need to accomplish or want to accomplish. But we can't just focus on what everybody else is doing. When you focus in on what everybody else is doing, you lose sight of what it is that you need to do. That's when you start to lose part of yourself. You start to lose some of your uniqueness and what makes you special. You know, all of us in here have watched Barney. You know that song "You Are Special" that Barney used to always sing. One of the lines is "You are special. You're the only one. You're the only one like you." And um, when I was a little kid, sometimes that song would make me cry, and it's because I knew that song was telling me the truth about myself, but I didn't believe it. And I wanted because I was so busy focusing on everybody else's opinion about me that I wasn't taking care of myself. I wanted to be like everybody else so bad that I wasn't focusing on being me, becoming the Marissa that I needed to be. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with being unique. Be different. That's what makes the world go round. MLK Day is coming up. Dr. King was very unique, you know, and he had to be that way. That's the only way he was going to be able to accomplish what he accomplished during the civil rights movement. Next month, February, Black History Month. Oh my God. Pure is you talking about black pride, black uniqueness. We black folks were different. They did different things so that we can make our community better. And that's another thing that what uniqueness does. Uniqueness makes the community better. Okay, Sir Isaac, you had your hand up?
Yeah, no, I feel attacked. Every nerve today. I'm joking. I'm joking. It's such a rich conversation, such a great conversation. And just piggybacking off of what you said about everybody has that sense of uniqueness. And also, you said about how the different journeys that we take. And I wanted to focus in on the fact that there's that saying, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but better. There's another part of it that says a jack of all trades is a master of none, but better than a master at one. That's the whole thing. And so when I learned that, because I used to talk to people and I used to tell them, oh, I want to either be a psychologist or an actor or this or that. And I just had so many things that I wanted to do. And I would hear people say, a jack of all trades is a master at none. A jack of all trades is a master at none. And until I learned the second half of it, which is a jack of all trades is a master at none, but better than a master of one. And that allowed me to understand in my uniqueness, there's an amalgamation of a plethora of things that we are put on this earth to do. And it's that uniqueness that drives us to help the global community, to help the global community as a whole. And it's that uniqueness that we need to help each other, to come in unity.
Mhm. Uh, Daniel, you had your hand raised?
So I can really relate to just this question in particular. Because one thing about me that a lot of people know is that I've always had my life planned out, even since I was a very little kid.
Mm-hmm.
I've just always been that way. I don't know what about it, what made me do it. I've just always been that way. So that's definitely one thing that is really unique about me that a lot of people just really can't wrap their head around. Because not a lot of kids can say, oh, I want to do this when I'm older, and then this is how I'm going to get there. This is what I'm going to do. I got to do this and this and this and this. Not a lot of people can say that. Very little kids can say that at my age. And it's definitely very unique knowing that, like, wow, I'm a certain percentage of my age that can do this, that has it planned out. like for me, what I want to be when I'm a medevac pilot, I already have it planned out how I'm going to get there, where I want to live, what I want to do, how much it's going to cost me to get there, and this and that, what companies I want to fly for. It's very unique to know that I am that type.
And you know, sometimes uh, people can take your uniqueness and they can see it as an attack on themselves. They'll become jealous, and jealousy can easily turn into enviness, can easily turn into envy. And that also goes back to what Lauren said before about not telling everybody everything about yourself because it's not meant for everybody to know. You know, people are scared of unique. There's a lot of people. I'm not going to say it's a lot of people. There's a group of people in this world. And I'm telling you, and I believe it's a small group, but their voices are pretty loud. They're scared of people who are different. They're scared of people who are unique. They're scared of people who have no problem being who they are because they came to a point in their life where they're like, you know what? You're going to hate me if I act like you. And you're going to hate me if I be who if I decide to be who I am. So, you know, I'm just going to be happy and be myself, you know. All right, go ahead, Bianca.
This response was to Daniel. I just wanted to say that is a really big gift to be able to, set a goal and stick to it because that's really hard for a lot of people to do. Um, it basically just says that you're a serial planner because you plan everything and you create steps, to get there and you accomplish, what it is that you set out and you know how to make big decisions. It's difficult for people to make big decisions sometimes. Sometimes people only know how to make small decisions, and that's why they get stuck in certain things and then they have to ask for help. So that shows, a lot of wit, a lot of wisdom in you, and it shows a lot of you're a high performer. So yeah, keep up the good work.
Mhm. Yeah, Daniel, keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. Okay, so my second question is, have you ever hidden a part of yourself just to fit in? Have you ever hidden a part of yourself just to fit in? You feel attacked again, Sir Isaac? Another nerve?
Look, look. I just want to. I want to first say. I want to first say. We are very proud of you, Daniel, and you keep up that. I just want you to know that we can relate. I can relate to that. Knowing what you want and having the drive to do it. Don't let anyone ever turn you away from it. Continue to keep that up. You know. And I mean, you asked me the question again.
Have you ever hidden a part of yourself just so you can fit in?
Yes, tying that, and that's what I was going to get at. Tying right into that, there have been times, again, when I was younger where I was so goal oriented. I was so driven, like I said, actor, our mental health, and I had all these different things that I wanted to do. And people again of that time, it's not unfamiliar story, which is why it's also why I encourage you, Daniel. That's why I said keep going, and that's why I'm letting you know I relate because it is a rarity to have that, and people did the same thing. They were like, oh, you want to be an actor, or you want to do this? Oh, there's no way, and so, oh, you want to do that, you want to this. And there's a time that I have felt all the time, even now, not just even when I was younger, even now, I feel like my uniqueness may be a burden because when you are, for me, when you are a gender non-conforming person, or when you live in the non-binary, and not just in gender, just in general, when you live in the non-binary, you don't think like others, you don't move like others. Sometimes the world doesn't understand that, and society, they they will try to ostracize you and make you feel as if, um, for a better lack of words, you're the crazy one, you know. But you have to know that I'm solid on who I am and where I'm going. Even sometimes when you gotta check back in. Sometimes that happens. You have to check back in with people who care about you, people who mean you well, and you have to check back in with them and talk to them about how you're feeling. And that's why it's also important to have good people around you, because I feel like that all the time. And sometimes I have to check in, even with Daryl. Even with Daryl, I have to check in and say, hey, I'm feeling, like I'm to this today, or I'm to that today. And he has to solidify, um, in a lot of ways. He does a great job in re-encouraging me, in saying, hey, I get it. I get it. So I hope I didn't babble just then, but but
No.
it made sense when I said it.
I Daniel, have you
Uh,
ever hidden a part of yourself to fit in?
I have, and
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I realized about it is that it wasn't really worth it. It's not worth hiding a part of yourself just to fit in. Because the one thing that I was always told that I didn't realize till I was in about maybe seventh, eighth grade, because I always had this friend who this dude was just an absolute bully, bullied everybody and this and that. And I would always hang out with him. But then once I hit about seventh and eighth grade, because I always hid a part of me. But then there's a part of me that I just couldn't hide anymore, and it came out. And once I hit about seventh grade, he started bullying me a lot more. It ended up getting to a point where me and him got into an altercation during school at lunch. And after that, I said, you know what? It's not worth it. It's not worth hiding who I am just to prove it's not worth hiding something of me. So I then said, you know what, dude? I pretty much basically said to him, he can go to where. I'm done with being friends with him. I'm done putting up with all his crap. I'm done hiding your secrets and all this and that. And then I ended up just going to hang out with a group of people that actually support me and are actually there.
You know, I can kind of resonate with that, Daniel, trying to fit in with people that don't match your energy, that don't match with the type of person that you want to become. And sometimes we do that. Sometimes we fit in. Um, Sometimes we hide parts of ourselves to fit in because we don't want to be alone. Like Sir Isaac said earlier today, that it's lonely at the top. But I think when people say it's lonely at the top, they don't necessarily mean that you're going to be alone by yourself. You know, and sometimes we think people tend to equate loneliness with being alone, or loneliness with being by yourself, and that's not the same thing. You know, it's never a good idea to give up a part of yourself just so you can feel accepted by other people. Because if you have to give up a part of yourself to feel accepted by other people, then that means those people don't even accept you in the first place. You know, so so my thing is, why are you even around those people? Why are you around people who don't accept you because you won't give up this part of yourself for them? Now, it's one thing if you're just a nasty, mean person and folks say, hey, we ain't gonna hang around with you because you just a negative Nancy, you always insulting people and stuff. That's one thing. But if you got people who say, well, I don't want to be around you because you tend to always, um, because you're into, I don't know, you're into playing video games all the time. You got people who will give up that side of themselves. Uh, Me, for example, I always hid the fact that I was a nerd from people because I was a girl. Girls were supposed to be into Barbie. We're supposed to be into My Little Ponytails and wearing dresses and doing all this other stuff. I didn't like that stuff. I liked the stuff that the boys did. I was a tomboy. I still am. Okay, I don't like dresses. Y'all, the last time I wore a dress was at my wedding. And before that, I don't remember when was the last time I wore a dress. No, actually, before that, the last time I wore a dress was sometime when I went to church and Daniel was little. That was another time that I wore a dress. But other than that, I ain't worn a dress since because I hated dresses, I hated skirts. I liked wearing pants and shorts. When I was in school, I liked running with the boys because what the boys did was more interesting than what the girls did. And it wasn't because I wanted to be a boy, I was just interested in what they were doing. I didn't like Barbie. I liked action figures. Okay, I didn't like Barbie dolls. I liked Power Rangers. I liked Batman. I liked I have my male cousins. When I would go to their house, I would play with their toys because I love playing with action figures. I would watch wrestling, WWE, WCW, ECW. I would watch that stuff because that was more interesting to me. And I would hide that from people. And the reason why I hid it was because people would make fun of me, both the girls and the boys. And so I would never talk about it. And then, you know, I meet Chrissy, and Chrissy says, "What are you? Why are you hiding your that side of yourself? Be yourself." And Chrissy let me know that it was okay for me and safe for me, and I had the right to love, to like the things that I like. So, and I still thank her for that. She let me know that it's okay for me to be a nerd. It's okay for me to be a tomboy. It's okay for me to like board gaming and all that other stuff. Somebody had their hands raised. Was it you, Bianca? Was it Sir Isaac? Okay.
I've I've struggled with that as well in presenting your full uniqueness and your full self. I've always, again, to the story I told earlier, I've always been me, but since it allowing myself to be comfortable with expressing that in society, because I did grow up in a time where we didn't quite have the breakthrough. We were there. Lady Gaga had just came out, and some other folks had, we were right there on the precipice of this. It was just now starting to be cool to be a gender bender. We came out with skinny jeans, and I'm dating myself, but that era, and so and so it was just now starting to be cool to show a little bit of gender non-conforming formingness. And I say that because I too, Marissa, have dealt with this notion of the comfortability of being myself and chipping away at places where now, if you saw me then, you may think I've completely changed. When in reality, no, I've just been able to, like now, for example, there are times where more feminine clothes, I put on because of my comfortability level. And back then, I may have not would have done that. And mind you, I was under my parents and there were other things going on. But what I'm saying is, you may say, oh, you were less feminine then than you are now. When in actuality, no, I was fighting society's perception of me. And I was fighting, oh, I don't want to be too feminine because then these people are going to be think this, but I don't want to be too masculine because these people are going to be with it. But now I'm coming to a place in my life. I'm me. So if you see me in heels and a dress one day, then I'm in heels and a dress one day. And if you see me in Tim's and the spaghetti shirts, and what have you another day, then that's what it is that day, And so I've come to a point in my life where I've been even more authentic to myself and bringing my whole self to the table. And sometimes we do go through stages where we've chipped away at that. But for me, I'm at a place where I understand my uniqueness is valued, and I understand that my uniqueness is adding value to everything around me. And those that it doesn't, then they can jump off of the wagon, off of the bandwagon, that is. And if you have any dresses, Marissa, that you want to donate, just send them on down here. You know where I'm at, you know.
I'll let you know. I gotta go into like my storage unit to see if I got some stuff. I will, don't worry. Bianca, you had your hand raised?
Yes. In reference to like hiding a part of yourself, two things popped in my head: work and friend relationships. At work, I have a difficult time with opening up because I feel I have to hide myself because I've been sabotaged a few times. There's some mean people out here. For
Mhm.
example, briefly, I was sharing something about a goal or something I was trying to do. And one mean girl who probably didn't care for me, she did something that kind of changed my schedule. And of course, I mean, we don't know if, and it changed. Okay, so changing of the schedule would impact me in a way where I could not complete the goal or it could hinder me from completing the goal. She knew that because we had a clear discussion about that. And so when I found out what her involvement was, it really threw me for a loop. So anyway, sometimes we find ourselves hiding, parts of ourselves or things that we want to do because we fear what other people would do with the information. Next, friend relationships. Like I have a lot of, a few friends, but for example, I don't like drinking, and a lot of them do, or they like smoking. I don't. I mean, we hang out with them, but that's not me. So the thing is, I prefer a conversation in a quiet room, and I find myself just kind of being in the room with them because that's what they like to do. And, you know, when I finally came out and said, no, I don't really like smoking, I don't really like drinking, they said, it's okay, Bianca, we accept you for you. And now they yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. They accept me for me. Lastly, I think it's a double-edged sword, Marissa. You were mentioning something about information sharing and sharing things with people. You don't have to share everything. But I say double-edged because sometimes it's good to share information with people, and then sometimes it's not. For example, I was sharing with my supervisor about a goal that I had, and he shared with somebody he knew that could help me, what I was trying to do, about what I was trying to do. And it came back to me and they said, hey, this gentleman reached out to me and said, Bianca, that you were working on this project and it's something I can help you with. And the crazy part about it is I would never share this type of information with my supervisor, but it helps me. And so I think that, of course we have to pick and choose what we want to share, but sometimes, it could be helpful to us, you know, not to be so private all the time.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's it.
And like that's part of the reason why I officially became a teacher now because I shared that information with a relative. Um, they're like, hey, I lost my job and I'm in this field. I like the field, but I really don't want to be there. And I just want to do this. I want to do that one more time with my family, want less stress. And then that's when my relative just said, girl, you need to go ahead and be a teacher. But I'm like, but I don't have my license yet. I have the degree. I don't have the license. They were like, my school district is hiring. They will hire you on emergency license. And they just told me who to talk to and all this other stuff. And I was able to become, a science teacher now. And I'm happy. So yeah, there are times where you should tell people about yourself, and then there are times where you shouldn't. And sometimes you don't really. And I'm gonna put this like, um, there's some folks that for sure you don't need to tell them nothing, and there's other folks for sure you can tell them whatever, and they're not gonna be judgmental. They're gonna do whatever they can to help you. And then there's some folks you just don't know yet, and usually it's just because it's those people you just don't know them. So, you know, you won't know unless you try. So, but at the same time, guard yourself. Don't give out too much information. Um, you got to find that line because, like you said, it's a double-edged sword. You got to find that line of when to talk and when to be quiet. Somebody else had their hand raised, I think.
I was just going to chime in with
Oh,
what you all were saying. I feel like the balance, exactly. There's a great pendulum in life when it comes to what to share because as a small business owner, as I mentioned earlier, I am a recovery coach, and as a small business owner, I have to get better with that. I have to get better with sharing, these are the things I'd like to do. This is what I'd like to do. This is what I see doing. Because you don't know, somebody may be waiting for your ideal. Somebody may be waiting, and I don't share for two main reasons. One, for the privacy thing, and
mhm,
not to never let your left hand know what your right hand doing, as they would say. But
mhm,
two, also because I don't want anybody to take my ideal. I don't want anybody to put a license on an unlicensed ideal that I am still creating. But with all that being said, it is a pendulum. It is this balance that you have to find, that Bianca was saying and that Marissa you're saying as well, because there are times where you don't know who wants to help you. You don't know who wants to help you be involved with certain things if you don't reach out. Like now I was talking about the event that I was trying to have in the future. And one of the things, the reasons I haven't had it yet is a place that I'm looking at, they want a date and they want a capacity number. Two things I don't have right now. And I haven't even began to reach out and ask anybody. I'm probably gonna make a Facebook post about it or something. Who would come? Because I'm in a different location, I'm in a different area. Who would be interested in this? But I'm finding the hardest time to do that because I don't want it to backfire. I don't want it to. So I say all of that. I say all of that to say I agree, and we have to bring our full selves to the table.
okay. So I have one more question on uniqueness, and then I have our closing question. So my last question on uniqueness is this: what changed when you stopped apologizing for being who you are? What changed when you stopped apologizing for being who you are? Daniel was the first one who raised his hand. Go ahead, Daniel.
One thing that definitely changed is I started realizing just like who my true friends are, who are the people that really care about me, who are the people that don't care about me. And I quickly realized that there's just some bonds with people that are just not meant to be forever. And there's some that are. There's some that are meant to help you figure out this is what you like. There's some that are there for you to not to figure out that we don't like you for you. You need to be this if you want to hang out with us. And that's definitely one thing that did change is I realized very fast who are the people in my life that definitely care about me more than versus when I was hiding myself.
Okay. I like that response. And, you know, at the age you are, you don't hear a lot of kids talk like that. A lot of kids are still doing, a lot of kids your age, and even adults, are still trying to fit in because they have not accepted themselves yet for who they are. I think that's where the self-love comes in. It starts with you accepting yourself and being who you are unapologetically. Do not apologize for the person that you are. This is just who you are. Now, as life goes on, do we change? Yes, we do. There are things about us that do change, but at the core of who you are, that does not change. Right, go ahead, Daniel.
Number one, I just want to say that you do make a good point, and then number two, I forgot to say this. So, like, a lot of people know I'm heavy on planes, and
Heavy
I'm
on what?
heavy on planes and aircraft and all that.
Okay.
And definitely one thing I remember when I first met my instructor, who I'm not going to say his name, because he did mean a lot. Pardon, like I definitely to this day owe him a lot because I remember to this day what he said when I landed. He said, "You need to stick with this because you know more about planes than what some adults can even ask. I can ask certain adults a question, they won't know the answer to it. Versus I could ask you a question and you don't know it." And that is definitely one thing that has always stuck with me throughout life.
So that's another thing. When you stop apologizing for who you are, it affects people. And it can affect people positively or negatively. And in your case, it affected someone positively. They saw something in you that a strength that you had, and they just encourage you to keep doing that. Okay, Sir Isaac or Bianca, who want to go? Okay.
There's a saying, Daniel, just to your point, there is a, parable about the tree, and it says that some people the uh, you are the tree, the trunk of the tree. And some people are the branches, and some people are the leaves, and some people are your roots. You have those who your roots, they've been riding and dying with you. They've been there with you. They're gonna be there with you. You can count on them. You can count on them to hold you up, as the trunk of the tree. You can count on them to hold you up. And then you have those branches. And unless something tragic happens with the branches, weather or they were knocked down or cut down, or those branches are going to be there. But there is a chance that those branches could fall off if again the weather is bad, or if they rot off, or if they're cut off because somebody else cut them off. Or so you have those people who are like branches, and then you have those people who are leaves. They're going to change every season, given that the tree is not an evergreen. But but let me stick to the metaphor. They're going to change every season. They're going to fall off and rebloom and resurface. So you have to find and understand in this metaphor who is what kind of person in your life. And that's an old parable. I don't know where it came from. I just know that I've heard it many a times throughout my life. So, to being unique, what I have found, um, is showing up as my full self has encouraged people. I have heard time and time and time again that, as I was saying earlier, the more that I have embraced my duality and the more that I've embraced myself, that people have said, "You give me such courage." Even people who aren't necessarily um, gender nonconforming or who are necessarily non-binary, even people who are more in their own binary spectrum, they have said, "You give me confidence to be more of me." Because if you can be you and the totality of who you are, I can definitely be all of me. And so that's one thing that I've taken away. And again, I've gotten to a point in my life, or getting to a point in my life, where I've stopped caring about what others think. I'm not saying I don't care because we're human, but I mean I've stopped caring about, you know, if I have pink on, or orange, or if I like it, if I love it, if I have a boot on, or if Marissa sends me those dresses that she has to go in stores to send me, and I decide to wear them somewhere, it just is. And either you like it or you don't. And
I
I've
want photos too.
serious. So we gonna see if they fit, honey. I know they do. Look, we gonna make it work if I gotta get back on the sewing machine. But but I've come to a point to where I have to live the totality of me. And it encourages others. It encourages others. And those that don't, those leaves will fall and the season will change.
Miss Bianca?
Well, after I stopped apologizing, I just learned how to be more authentic to myself and accepting me for me. And I just felt more comfortable, more at ease. That's it. More confident, more at peace. And overall, I just felt like I was giving myself more self-love. That was it.
For me, life became a little bit easier, and it was easier to say no. Because sometimes when we struggle with self-acceptance, we always say yes. We always say yes, even when we know we want to say no. So be self-acceptance and not apologizing for who I am made it so much easier for me to say no. And it just made my life easier. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about that. It's easier to say no. It's just easier for me to be me because I'm not going to apologize for who I am. I apologize for my mistakes, but I'm not going to apologize for who I am at the core. So, I do have a closing question for all of you, and we can all answer it one at a time. If there's one thing you want someone watching this to hear, especially somebody who is struggling with self-love, self-acceptance, and being unique, what would it be? Go ahead, Bianca.
Do what makes you happy.
Yes. Daniel?
I would say don't let somebody else decide your faith. Let you decide that.
Mm-hmm. And Sir Isaac?
I'd say be you. Just be you.
Okay. And then the advice I would give is the same thing. Be you. Be yourself. Love yourself. Surround yourself with those who love and care about you. That is something that I say at the end of all of my videos. Um, and I'm gonna be honest with you, if it's your first time loving yourself, if it is your first time accepting yourself, if it's your first time being unique, I'm gonna tell you this right now. It's gonna feel strange. It's gonna feel a little uncomfortable. But the more you get used to it, baby, it's gonna get easier. And you're just gonna end up loving yourself more. You're gonna end up becoming the person that you're supposed to be at the core. So, on that note, the doctor once said in that book, which is my memory, here begins a new life. And I hope this conversation helps someone begin theirs. I want to thank you all for coming and having this discussion with me on self-love and uniqueness on our very first annual EMH Day panel celebration. And so, as I always say at the end of all of my videos, love yourselves, be kind to yourselves, surround yourselves that love and support you, and we will see you all later. Have a nice day, and I
Thank you.
enjoyed myself. And happy EMH Day, everybody.
You happy
Thank
and
you. Happy EMH Day,
Happy
everybody.
EMH Day.
Happy EMH Day.
All right.